A great morning. Now I'm getting loud, aren't I? I'm all right? All right, cool. And we're standing between the Texas State Fair, the Texas Longhorns against the Oklahoma Sooners. Any boomers out there? Yeah, there are some boomers. Yeah, well, it's a good rivalry. Well, anyway, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty in bringing up the agenda, but we can work through this. We'll get it as we go. So let's begin. Would you stand with us, please, as we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with a liberty and justice for all. And Warren will do our invocation, please.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for the rains here in Texas that have greened up our landscape, filled our lakes, and slowed the risk of fires. We thank you for today that we can come here and meet in a free country. We are very grateful for all of our volunteers, staff, and first responders who help Holly Lake Ranch stay safe and beautiful every day. Please bless and guide this board in making decisions with the wonderful opportunities ahead. With your help, we can unite this community spirit like never before. In Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Warren. Okay, we'll move right into the agenda, which you can't see. The first is approval of minutes. Warren?
Yes, sir. President, I make a motion we approve the minutes of 9/19/2023, open meeting and executive session.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Moving right into the second agenda item, and that's a ranch update from Mr. Adam Elan.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's great to see you all. So just quickly, just going to go over three main things today. The first is a Silverleaf update. So hopefully you all have had a chance to read your email that we sent out yesterday, but just wanted to touch very briefly on that. So the work of the committee to this point has paid off in spades. We were able to meet with three representatives that came to us from Florida earlier in the week on Wednesday, and essentially come up with a very clear definition of what the common areas, as we refer to the common areas, but then their interpretation of the common areas. And our intent is to make Holly Lake Ranch whole. That has been our intent since formation of the committee, to find ways to be able to do that, to then make recommendations to the board, to then eventually come for approval by the homeowners. So just personally speaking, I think the meeting went very, very well, and primary topics of discussion were the common areas. So how do we identify those for a fee-free transfer to the residents of Holly Lake Ranch? And we are on the precipice of what I believe a very historic opportunity for you to own all of your common areas. Just tremendously grateful for the work of the committee and all the work that they have done. And going forward from here, the intent is to draft an LOI, a letter of intent. So the purpose of that letter of intent, it's a non-binding letter of intent that outlines basically the terms of what would eventually be a contract should the 4,000 shareholders of this ranch elect to move forward with it. So that is our intent. Let's codify it in writing. Again, non-binding, but it defines. We take it to the board. We get their approval on it. We start educating, doing the whole gamut of what we've been working on for eventual vote by the homeowners. Should the homeowners vote yes, then the contents of that LOI would naturally transfer over into a contract. There will be additional verbiage from a legal standpoint that have to be added to make it a binding contract versus a non-binding letter of intent. So that's where we are on that. We hope to get that done relatively soon. Relatively is the key word. I would like to have it done this week, but that's just not going to happen. So the sooner we can get that, the better. And once we get the terms of the LOI identified, Then we know exactly what they've agreed on. They've agreed, kind of face-to-face, but I'd like to have it in writing. So once we get that, then we'll formally start this so there's no confusion, and tremendously excited about this. So if you see members of the committee, we owe them a debt of gratitude for their time and work on this. So tremendous opportunity. Speaking of Silverleaf Committee, so with what will be here in just a few minutes, the official appointment of Mr. Mark Allen. Again, I want to go back to the intent of the Silverleaf Committee, and that's the research arm of the Board of Directors to make recommendations, not decisions, but recommendations. We need to, with Mark's addition to the board, we need to formally go through the process, and that's a legal process that was initiated through a resolution. We need to go through the legal process of removing him from the committee, just so that we can maintain that separate accountability. Committee makes recommendations, board receives those. So we want to keep those lines very clear moving forward. So we'll proceed forward with that, and essentially the committee will be reduced by 1 member. So we'll go from 8 to 7, and as we're hopefully nearing the end of this with some final clarity, we just don't know that there's a need to bring somebody in at this point, bring them up to speed on the actions of the past several months. So we're going to move forward as is. And then finally, just a very quick update, the lawsuit. The association has filed a response to the amended lawsuit. I know that probably weighs heavy on everybody's minds, as it certainly does mine. But I also think it's important to note that to date, the association has spent $10,196.36 in defense of your association. That does not include any unreceived bills for this past month. But we are continuing forward with that, and we'll continue until final resolution. But I thought it important to at least note that we have filed, our attorneys have filed the amended response. That is what we have spent year to date, and we are continuing to move forward, again, in defense of the association. So appreciate your time today, and shortest one yet, I think. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but all right.
Thank you, Adam. And with that, we're going to open it up for questions or comments from the residents. If you would like to do so, please come to the mic and state your name and your section, please. No, wait. There was somebody coming up behind you. Yeah, you. Yes.
That was it. My name is Lisa Armach. I live section 4. I was asking about the erosions. I know you guys have been working on that. I was promised by a couple head leaders that they were going to do something on my property, and my property has someone put a big old drainage pipe to go under the road, and somebody else's bright idea was put a second one. And it's right there at the end of the bottom of my property, and it has eroded a quarter of my property, and I'm talking major damage because of it, and nobody has ever come back to say what they were going to do about it. I really need some help on that because my property already slopes that way, right. And it's going to start to impede to go towards my house.
Okay, thank you for informing us of that. Adam, can we get with her, get the address, and we'll come out there and have a look, see what we can do.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is that Melvin?
Now, since I haven't been around here for about a year, I guess I get a little extra time. I don't know. I'm going to read this so that I don't go to hemming and hawing. My name is M.G. Johnson. I have a house I visit on occasion at 563 Branding Iron. I reside in Cedar Hill and visit, my word, and visit Holly Lake Ranch sometimes once a month. My visits are getting less and less frequent for a number of reasons. First, I want to welcome the new board members to Fort BOD. I suspect you will find things a bit different in the fort looking out than being on the outside firing shots at the fort. My primary reason for driving 2 hours from Cedar Hill, besides the nice weather, is to give some well-deserved thanks to a now past Board of Director member, Dennis Dosey. He has done a couple of things that directly have benefited me and for which I lobbied for over a period of months. First, Dennis was instrumental in getting the dog kennel under control with rules and new management. Before that, there was chaos at the kennel and a constant yelping, barking coming from the northeast corner of the 20 acres that Holly Lake Ranch Association does not own but leases on Highway 49 that is also used to store vehicles and has the gun range on it. My Holly Lake Ranch house is about a half a mile south of the kennel, and competing with bird singing was the kennel dogs barking and yelping. That, along with the domestic canines privately owned that their owners allow to bark incessantly, made for such a noise one often wanted not to make the 2-hour trip from Cedar Hill. I rarely hear barking from the kennel now, but still hear a lot of privately owned domestic canine barking, especially when walking. I also have a vacant 1-acre lake lot on the east side of the east leg of Lake Greenbrier that is not connected with my house and about 1 mile away. The lower 75% of that lot is an infamous L lot. And at one time, even in the Holly Lake Ranch Association Architectural Review Authority guidelines, a no-bill restriction existed. Dennis saw to it, at least as far as Holly Lake Ranch Association is concerned, in the ARA guidelines, the Ancient of Days no-bill restrictions were removed. There is one caveat, and that is, quoting from the ARA, the property owner is responsible to ensure clear title and no adverse deed restrictions bearing on any lot being built upon. Now that specifically affects me. This refers to a decades-old restrictive no-bill covenant that still exists in the Wood County property records filed by a predecessor of Silverleaf, Ascension Resorts Limited. No one with an L lot can get a warranty deed or title insurance on that lot because of this filing. Title companies will not issue either. It still remains to have Holiday Inn Club Vacations, Inc. file a release in the Wood County property records of the restrictive covenant no-bill provision that was a part of a quitclaim on my lot filed decades ago. The general counsel for HICV Inc. stated if Holly Lake Ranch Association relented and changed their no-bill restrictions, then he would see about removing the restrictive covenant filed in Wood County records, but that has not happened. I'm dealing with a HICV Inc. attorney in Dallas that seems to be dragging her feet. I may need an attorney to get that done. If anyone is interested in the details of how L lots came to pass and what the situation is related to them, then go to the website hlrfacts.us, hlrfacts.us. So, in conclusion, thank you, Dennis Dosey. Many of us will miss your dedicated service.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mr. Dosey, thank you for your service. Thank you for commitment of being willing to serve and give the time that you have, having been in your spot. Sometimes it's not as deserved as we think it should be, and I appreciate that very much. And another question I might ask, just as someone that doesn't know too much about what's going on, if the incoming board member has to get off that committee, is there ever an occasion where, knowing as much as he does, can be a non-member and just sit in on meetings like that as a representative?
Liaison.
That's a great word. I was trying to eliminate that. A liaison. Yeah, I mean, just as a point of consideration, but it sure would have.
Hang on just a minute, ma'am.
Let me.
Yes, sir. To answer the question, yes, sir, there is. It's not our intent. Mr. Allen comes with a tremendous amount of historical knowledge and paper. He backs it up by paper. It is, I think, speaking on behalf of the committee, certainly myself, we're going to miss his knowledge, his institutional knowledge, his learned knowledge when there's not something that there's a quick and a definite answer. He's the guy that's working on the weekends and will come back several days later and say, I've got the answer. So we'll certainly miss that. But what we're trying to do is preserve that, kind of that line. So in the event that there's specific questions, I think it's absolutely appropriate to be able to reach out with some of those. But we want to be able to bring a finished, polished product to the board of directors with facts, not opinions, and courses of action that are recommended but not decided, so that we can do absolutely what's best for the residents of this ranch. Excuse me. Good gracious. So yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
apologize for butting into that answer.
That's okay.
But I am a little confused. My understanding of the history so far at Holly Lake is every time there is a committee, you do have a board member as a liaison with that committee back to the board. And since this was not my question, but since he brought that up, I just was going to ask, is that not still the case? And if it is, could Mark not be the liaison, as a board member liaison to that committee?
We currently have 3 standing committees, right? The Finance Committee, the Election Committee, and the ARA. Those have a standing, or it's not forever. Once a new member comes in, we can assign liaisons to those 3 committees. Mm-hmm. In the past, there were groups that came, and there was liaisons assigned to those. And we changed that last year, and but we certainly can do that. But nonetheless, Mr. Allen's expertise can still be used.
And I appreciate
And
that.
I'm sorry, could you tell me your name, please?
Oh, no, I'm Belinda Flowers, Section 8.
Right, okay.
But I can understand why having a liaison for every work group isn't
Sure.
really feasible.
Sure.
But I think this is a pretty important and official committee, so it would make sense. But that was not my question. My question was, I had heard, and I don't see anything on the agenda about it, and you know that I have heard thing, that you all have created a legal committee.
We do. We have.
And I just have, it's pretty self-explanatory, I guess, what that would be. But I would appreciate hearing from you guys, from someone, what that's all about, what their duties generally are going to be, and that kind of
Okay, all right, sure, I'll be glad to do that.
Thank you.
We have, at the advice of our legal team, formed a litigation management committee. The committee is designed to help with preserving the attorney-client privilege. The purpose of the committee is also to monitor the lawsuit filed under case number 2023-149, Andrew Springer versus Holly Lake Ranch Association, Inc., in the 402 Judicial District of Wood County, Texas, managing litigation strategy and decisions for the association, and preserve attorney-client privileges. This committee will be governed by Article 4, Section 6A of the bylaws. And those committee members that were chosen because they have been involved in the litigation since its inception and know the most background and strategy to this point, those appointed committee members are Bill Wilkins, Dennis Dossie, Stacy Fink, Danny Jackson, and Warren Blesh. And that's the purpose. Okay? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Ileana Sukta, Section 4, another one of these I heard. So the one thing we loved about the east side is the entrance, and you have that beautiful fountain. And for months, with an S, months, that fountain's been out. I've called, parts on order. Can we get a status of that? And I know that I talked to Adam because my favorite part was the light that lit it up at night. And the electrical couldn't support the fountain and the lighting. Do we not have a maintenance electrician or someone that could look into that to maybe be able to bring that back? Because it made the entrance of the east side so beautiful. So can you give us a status update on the fountain and the possibility of adding the light back?
Yes, absolutely. Glad you brought that up. So The fountain is a landmark. I mean, there are several landmarks here, and that is certainly one. It looks, and I can certainly appreciate the I heards, but from a factual standpoint, we repaired it last year. We repaired it the year before. We've spent several $1,000s on what is an aging and archived piece of equipment that is no longer supportable. We took it down for repair again this year, and it was determined that it was going to be a substantial amount to fix it. Why continue to put good money after bad? And so we have in the 2024 proposed budget a new fountain. That new fountain would come with a warranty. It is more efficient. It would include lights. It would do all of those things that we want to do. Baby steps, baby steps. Yes. It will have holograms, you know, so we'll be able to put your name and stuff in. I'm kidding. But the intent is to do that, and I understand it looks poor right now. Other factors to consider, we all know about the drought. We provide water that is not just excess runoff water to that pond from Lake Greenbrier, just as we do across the golf course. We have elected for asset management and preservation to divert that water to the golf course. I cannot in good conscience let the golf course die while we have a beautiful hole number 12 pond. So it does look a little bit stagnant. We recognize that. We knew that was going to be an anticipated downfall of this. But given the options, that was a smart option to make. So all that to say, once we get that back up and running, once we're able to continue to push water through it, once we're able to get the dredging done, which is scheduled for fourth quarter of this year, that is one of the properties that we'd like to do. It's a let's fix it right, not fix it right now. So that is our mentality. Yes, ma'am, that is correct. But it gives you something to look forward to.
Thank you for the question. Any other questions?
Cindy Wilkes, Section 4. Just a clarification, because as a teacher, I'm listening to what vocabulary is being used. You said no fee. Define no fee, because I found out in all sorts of ways there's sometimes something else that's not considered a fee, but they don't bring that up. And I'm not saying you didn't. I'm just saying,
Yeah, sure.
is this a freebie we're going to get through this? Or is there other costs involved with this? Also, and I may be jumping the gun, we have not apparently come to consensus yet what the common areas are.
First question. Fee-free is the terminology. So no fee, I think, is ambiguous. Fee-free transfer, and that was very deliberate. We want to convey that the transfer of the property is fee-free. There are certainly going to be fees associated with it for titling, warranty, legal fees, things of that nature, certainly. But what we're shooting for is the residents of this ranch will pay $0 for millions of dollars worth of assets that will come over. And we will get into the nitnoid details of that once we have the LOI. I quite honestly cannot wait for that day, because I think the residents of this ranch are going to be very happy with the work of the committee.
Good.
Second question. Goodness, I must be showing my age.
That's okay. I know the question.
Oh, thank you.
Have we come to consensus with
yeah.
Silverleaf about what's included in the common areas?
Yes, ma'am, we have.
Because we keep, you don't know, and I'm like them, I'm tired of I've heard.
Yeah.
I'd rather come here and hear it from the horse's mouth.
Yes, ma'am, we have. And we've identified those not only on a map, but by parcel ID, tax ID. And that was one of the end states for our meeting with Silverleaf. The intent was to come away with a mutually agreed upon list that will serve as an Annex A to the LOI. We want to clearly identify and define what those are. We want to back it up by abstracts, by meets and bounds, by all of those different mechanisms, so that we can get this thing transferred over. So pleased to report that we did step away on Wednesday with that list. And to be quite honest, it was everything a little bit more that we had hoped for. So.
Right. And that'll come out to us later on.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. And again, this is not us trying to hide anything, but what I don't want to do is go through all of that today, and then this LOI come back and we say, well, we'd agreed on this, but for unforeseen circumstances, they've removed this. I want to be very clear, and if it comes out of my mouth, I want it to be a fact. And I can't say
I
it's a
appreciate
fact
that.
right now.
That's
so.
great. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the question.
I've already identified myself. I would like to tell you how much we as an association and owners and appreciate what the board did in hiring you. You have added a ton of quality here, and you're very professional, and we appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I'm curious, how did the elk hunt go?
But before you answer that, I appreciate your humor.
First of all, Mr. Johnson, welcome back. I have missed our near weekly email correspondence. I was getting worried about you. The elk hunt went great. There are several levels of success with an elk hunt. I did not manage to get an elk this year, but I refer to it affectionately to my wife as Mountain Clarity. I come back physically exhausted but mentally clear. And just a short story, but the last day that we were there, it snowed, and if you know anything about me, I'm a snow creature, not a heat creature. I don't know how we ended up, well, I do, because my wife of 11 years today said we're moving someplace warm. Yes, ma'am. But it on the top of a mountaintop, looking at elk through binos, and it started to snow, and I was like, this is out of Eastman's Journal or something. But it was fantastic. I appreciate you asking, and ready to go back to work. So, thank you, thank you. I suckered her in, and she.
Are there any other questions? I would just like to say something before we move into this recognition of the existing board members that will be stepping off. This committee, the Silverleaf Committee, have put untold hours into this, okay? I know it seems like, you haven't heard anything, but this has taken a lot of time, and a lot of people have put a lot of effort and want to sincerely do what is best to this ranch to put before you as the residents of this ranch to either vote for or against, but we want to do it in a way that's fully above board and fully that you can understand and have opportunity to see those documents and to be able to ask questions, and all of that will be recommended by the committee of how that's going to work out to the board, and we want to ensure you that you will have ample time and plenty of time to review all of that stuff. So just that being said, I'd like to extend a thank you to the Silverleaf committees. On. Am I on now? Sorry, I turned this off and on. So this is kind of a, not kind of, it really is a kind of a bittersweet moment from a standpoint of if you've served on any kind of a board or a committee for a long period of time, it takes a while to develop a relationship and to get to know people and to understand where everybody's coming from, because each individual voice on this board is important, and it's heard and it's discussed, and we go back forth in battle, and not in a battle in a bad way, but just to try to understand everybody's point of view and to try to come to consensus. That's not always possible when you have 5 individuals. Just think about your home when your family comes in, right? You never totally have consensus all the time. And so over the years, we've built this, okay? And every year, we have new board members, as it should be because of our bylaws. And as we welcome in a little bit our new members, it's going to take a little bit to work through that, but we're all committed to what's best for this ranch, and everybody's voice is important, okay? And so not just what's heard, but what the facts are when we have our meetings. So we appreciate you guys being patient with us, and we look forward to moving forward. But right now we want to recognize our existing members that will be stepping off. That's Mr. Dennis Dossie and Mr. Danny Jackson. And before these gentlemen have a few words, As you might be aware, it's tough sometimes being a spouse of a board of director. There are a lot of things that are published that aren't true, that are unfactual, and are downright hurtful at times. And we have to be above that, okay? And I just want to recognize Melanie and Debbie for having to kind of put up with us as your spouse serves on the board. And we thank you very much for your patience and what you do for this community by being that support. Okay, with that being said, we're going to go in alphabetical order here. Mr. Dossie, well, before we go there, any board member would like to say something?
I'd like to say a few words. Am I on? Okay, good. This isn't goodbye. It's really hard for me because I've had the privilege to serve with two great gentlemen over the last 2 years. We've fought together, we've cheered together, we've cried together. But what we have right here in front of you, two people that are leaving that have made an exceptional contribution to this community. I can't imagine not having Danny right there and Dennis right there, but we'll work through this. But you are not allowed to change your phone number.
Okay. All right.
We know
Just,
where you live.
just a couple words, Bill. I want to thank you guys for your professional service the last year on this board with me, and also making a newbie feel welcome. It's like initiation in college. And after I got hazed, I started learning things. But I will tell you, each one of these gentlemen have played a special role. Danny's provided me with so much history that's really made some continuity better. Dennis has helped me immensely on minutes and grammar and all that stuff. My dad was an English teacher. That did not help. And he did my papers. But anyway, I wish you both the best. Look forward to seeing you, and let's go fishing.
Thank you. Okay, with that said, it's Mr. Dossie.
Thank you, Bill. I have being a man of few words, I have a few words. I got an email this week from a gentleman. 5 years ago, to be honest, it was a bit terrifying to me. Today, I call him my friend. And he said, Dossie, when's the defrocking ceremony? Well, I guess this is it. As I leave the board, I'd like to thank each of those 7 other individuals with whom I've served over the past 2 years. We have worked hard, as have the boards that have preceded us. We have overcome our differences, and I believe we've made a difference in this community. I also wish to thank all of those that entered the race this year for this position. Whether you have won or lost, if we do not have people willing to put themselves out there, take the risk, win or lose, the system doesn't work, and our community cannot work. In this community, as in our nation, the vacuum will always be filled. I plead with you to ask the question, who will serve if not me? As for myself, I've done my very best. I trust that it has been good enough. Time will tell. I plan to spend more time on those things that are important to me and less on the urgent. In the campaign recently passed, I told you that I was laser focused on one goal, the acquisition and ownership of our common properties to the benefit of Holly Lake Ranch. Someone else will have to take that one across the finish line, but I believe we will see that reality. I believe when we sit in this room at this time next year, we'll be sitting in our building, sitting on our property with our cars parked out there on our parking lot, looking at our beautiful lake out here. And perhaps as we drive home, we'll look across our golf course or walk our beautiful trails. Tom's campaign spoke of preserving the treasure. That's a good line, by the way. I would like to add, let's seize the treasure. To the new board, I wish you every success. To each of you, I bid a great day, and God bless Holly Lake Ranch.
Danny? How's the sound? Can you hear me? Sound okay? Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Bill. I'd like to begin by saying it's been a great privilege to me to have been given the opportunity to serve the members. Looking back in the past 5 years, it has been exceptionally challenging. We've dealt with a succession of important events and situations, many of which are still unfolding. It's been difficult at times, but a rewarding experience. Frank and open discussions are essential as we strive for consensus on unity of purpose for our members. I have no doubt that the building of bridges, the forging of common grounds, and the engagement of members will determine to a large degree how successful Holly Lake Ranch will be moving forward. Having mutual respect for different views and opinions needs to be at the heart of the constructive dialogue and cooperation we seek to promote. I'd like to express my debt of gratitude to the members of the Board of Directors for the great teamwork and for the invaluable support and advice. My appreciation all goes out to our administration, whose efforts day in and day out have kept the wheels running smoothly. Most of all, I would like to thank you, our members, for the confidence and trust you've placed in me, and it's been my privilege and honor to have worked closely with you.
The last thing I'd like to say, these two men and their families are good people and have tried their best to serve this community. And we owe them a debt of gratitude. So thank you, guys. You be seated. Oh my goodness, give me just a minute to regain my composure here a little bit. I thought you were going to kiss me or something. No, just ignore that. No. Oh my goodness. We are excited about the two new members that's going to be added to this board, okay? And so what we're going to do is I'm going to call their name. And before I call their name to stand and to come up here and join us, I too want to say to their spouses, Char and Denise, you are a great support to those individuals that you love and call your husbands. And we really thank you for allowing them or agreeing with them to serve in this capacity as a board of directors. We appreciate you guys. We really, really do. So at this time, Mr. Tom Huntz, would you stand? Mr. Mark Allen, would you stand and come forward, please? Would you give them a round of applause? Right up here. Yep. 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 I can't reach Mark. You may have, there's a little button on the top here to activate. Sorry. Before we get started here, the election committee, they have put untold hours into this every year or any type of special election we have. And they get criticized at times, but boy, do they put a good product out. And really, from a standpoint of overseeing this election, we really want to give them a great big thank you, and our gratitude go out to them. So thank you guys very much. Okay, so we want to recognize the candidates who ran for these positions. That being Mr. Greg Dimko, Dennis Dossie, and Terry Haney. Thank you guys for being willing to run, and thank you for your efforts, and we really appreciate you guys very much, so thank you. So, Mr. Allen, would you like to say a few words?
I'd like to say,
He's probably got to look it up for us.
I'd like to say thank you for the people that supported me. Thank you for the people that didn't support me. I can say through this campaign, I did not say one thing negative to no one. I did not post one thing negative to anyone. And anything that I said in any meeting, I got a piece of paper to document what I said. We need to be ashamed of ourselves for the stuff that was said about people during this election. And we need to change before we have another election, because me and my wife learned a lot of stuff about me on Facebook this year that I hadn't known in 67 years. And if somebody's got something to say to me, come look in my one eye and say it to me. From now on, if I say something to you, I'll have you a piece of paper to back it up what it says. And everybody should go across that and live that same way. Because there is so much damage that has been done to this ranch that somebody heard from Willie Bob down at the bar say that his grandmama said 40 years ago. If it's not in writing, it don't exist. If it's not filed in the courthouse, you don't own it. So please, folks, if you want to put something on Facebook, put your documentation that backs up what your mouth says with it. And if you can't say something nice, just be quiet. I'm glad to be here.
Tom?
Echo the comments about campaigning, and thanks to the supporters, and thanks to everybody.
It's green.
Thanks to the supporters, and thanks to everybody who ran.
I have a little program for y'all to follow. If you'd like to lose some weight, highly recommend that you run for office. Denise and I, well, Denise drove 300 miles inside Holly Lake Ranch in the month of August. During that time, I kept track of people that I was meeting for the first time. I had a member list. I met 247 people that I didn't remember meeting before, perhaps, but that I'd met for the first time. And every one of those conversations was about the ranch and what their personal interests were. And I want to continue to do that kind of thing where we get feedback from you, the members. During the campaign, I said I wasn't running with anybody, against anybody. I was running for the members of Holly Lake Ranch, and that's who I will represent. Now, as a member of the team here, These are my partners. We work on your behalf. We listen and we do what's best for the ranch, and we'll continue to do that. I'm encouraged today by the enthusiasm level that I feel in this room. This is not because I'm being installed, but there's a happy factor in this room. Do you not all agree today? That has been absent for a while. So let's remember that, as Bill said, these are our family and friends and our neighbors. Let's remember that and not go off the rails at times in some of these meetings and attack the people that are trying to do the work for you. So let's get it done.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, so we'll let the journey begin. And we look forward to working with you two gentlemen as a group to guide this ranch as you have elected us. So, Adam, if you will do the oath of office, please stand.
Started this last year, and this is from your elected officials an affirmation or reaffirmation of their commitment to you. So I'm going to briefly read our preamble and then go through the oath of office. Each director of the association, when elected, shall take and subscribe to an oath that he or she will, insofar as the duty devolves upon him or her, faithfully, honestly, and diligently administer the affairs of the association, and that he or she will not knowingly violate or willingly permit violation of any laws applicable to the association. Directors, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Todd Hunt,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear and affirm
that I will faithfully, truly, impartially, and honestly,
truly, faithfully, honestly,
and to the best of my judgment,
and to the best of my judgment,
skill, and ability, execute and perform the duties required of me as a member of the Holly Lake Ranch Association Board of Directors.
Holly Lake Ranch Association Board of Directors.
So help me God.
So help me God.
And I will say to you that without a doubt in my mind that I and the rest of these fellow board members commit to you that we will do that oath, okay? It doesn't say we're going to do everything you think we ought to do, but we're going to do what we think is best for this ranch in consensus with these five gentlemen, and ladies and gentlemen. Woo, I'm in trouble. Ooh, that's right. Okay, cool. Now, the last thing before we are adjourned, according to our bylaws, Article 6, Section 1, the offices of the association shall be members of and chosen by the board of directors. And those chosen are Bill Wilkins, President, Stacy Fink, Vice President, Secretary Tom Hunch, Treasurer Mark Allen, and Mr. Warren Blesh, Member at Large. So those are your new directors. With that,
Mr. President, I make a motion we adjourn this meeting.
I have a motion. I have a second. We have a second. Man, we're out of here. We're adjourned. Thank you all for coming.